Hello, you're listening to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher, the programme that brings you news from believers in Israel, Jewish, Arab and Palestinian people. Ofer Amitai is the pastor of a Messianic congregation in Jerusalem. Today, while still in the grips of the COVID pandemic, he describes how the people have managed to not only stay in touch during lockdowns, but actually really encourage each other.
I'll tell you what we did from the beginning. I mean, people went nuts with rumors, with conspiracy theories, with whatever. And I felt from the beginning that what the Lord wanted for us is to encourage people to take that time and seek His face, be in the Word, develop more in prayer, give themselves to fellowship together. In other words, do the things that we're supposed to do anyway, but many people don't on normal days. And many people neglect it. And I felt, and I still feel very strongly, that we are to emphasize the Lord, that we are to stay concentrated on Him in the Word, that we are to preach the Word. You know, from what I saw was happening in America, I saw that many congregations were kind of went into a comforting mode, comfort the people, assure them. But I felt I should challenge the people, that we should be in a challenging mode, that I should call people to task, that we should call people to rise to the occasion. Their God is not a God of just of great economy and everything's okay. Our God is a God of also troubles and not just green pastures, but the valley of the shadow of death. And it all leads to Him, to the banquet. So I believe God is real and that all His promises are real, and we need to take Him up on it. So our focus has been to challenge the people to be with God. And our prayer meetings have been that way. We've not concentrated on ourselves, but we have concentrated on praying for people, for reaching out. In other words, get out from looking at ourselves and our fears. And by and large, the people have responded. Now, when I say that, I also have to say, to be honest, to say not everybody. And why not everybody? There are those who maybe are not so affected. Let's say their jobs are okay, they can work online, they do different things. And so in that security, they've not felt so much the insecurity or the earth-shaking thing, and have not been shaken out of their own, I'm going to say it too strongly, complacency. But in any case, we feel to continue to do that. And many of the people rallied, and I hope that it has a ripple effect, that when we come out of it or when we meet, we will continue to challenge the people and to rise up. And I think that, I believe with all my heart that these kinds of situations and times should be times of growth, of enlargement, of more knowledge of God, less selfishness, more willingness to give our lives, both for the Lord, the gospel, and to others. So these are difficult times, but they can also eventually be something we look back and say, I thank God for it. If it brings us closer as a family of believers, even that's very important. I hope we don't go back to just mere individualism when we're done.
Yes, I mean, can we ever go back to what we did before? Because there is that sense, certainly in the UK where I'm sitting at the moment, that this is going to go on for months yet.
Yes.
There's no way we're going to suddenly turn a corner and going to be able to go back to life as we knew it 6 months ago. So is that the same in Israel, would you say?
You know what? I think we feel so now. This is how we feel now because we're swimming. We haven't gotten to the other side of things. But I wonder, and I don't know the answer to that. I wonder, we're good at forgetfulness. I mean, when things are over, and yes, it may even take a few more years to get back to normal. But what if we do get back to normal? You know, 9/11 in America, churches got filled, but then afterwards it went back to normal. So the test will be when everything is back up to par. Maybe in a few years, the economy flying, or maybe it won't be the same. I don't know, but maybe there'll be another kind of virus. It's not the end. So I don't
So
know.
you're describing a situation, Ofer, that really the spiritual effect on your congregation and presumably the nation has been a good one. It's been a shaking. It's been a wake-up call. Would that be fair?
Yes, I think so. I think it could be, it should be. With God, that will be this way because He redeems situations. I hope all congregations are going through the same thing. I definitely hope that we as pastors and everything will be more forthcoming to help one another. So yeah, I'm hoping the result will be a learned lesson and a growth into more of what God would have us be.
Let's just talk about your meeting with other pastors, because there's been a strong movement of getting together over the years with your fellow pastors, both Jewish and Arab. Have you been able to maintain that sense of unity or not?
Yes, I mean, whenever we can, possibly, we meet together. We have a Jerusalem pastors meeting, and we certainly have met when we could, masks and all, but it's been lovely to see others, and we're waiting for any opportunity. My own feeling is when we're allowed to do something, let's do it with gusto. I mean, if they open
Yes.
up, we should definitely seek each other out and be together and pray and be a body.
Are there any particular passages in the Bible that you have been sharing with your people recently, Ofer, that you think specifically speak to the times in which we're living now?
I've just been preaching the Messiah, preaching Christ and Him crucified. So any of that. I mean, for instance, in Sukkot, and I just put this up on. I'll have it in English already. We had a message on John 7:30, 37 to 39, where Yeshua cried out to all who were in the temple, anyone who is thirsty, and we examined that. We're calling people to the Lord, and interestingly, because we're also praying, I have navigated as much as I have felt a leading to do this, to instead of praying from the situation into the Bible, we've done the opposite. We've taken the word and prayed from it into the situation. I'll give you an example. There has been enormous dissatisfaction with the government for many reasons. I can just say that this COVID-19 issue, as I think it has in many nations, has brought out the any strength, but also weaknesses in governments and abilities of leadership. So it's happened in Israel. As you know, we've had 3 elections in 1 year. We've got troublesome things happening. It doesn't matter. But instead of just praying our opinions to the Lord, we've prayed the word, for instance, from Ezekiel 34, where God had promised the leadership that will take care of shepherds, really, I think that they are also leaders of the nation. And we've been praying out of that and of praying from the promises of God. And what that has done, it has given the people, first of all, a sight of God and His own agenda and promises. And that doesn't change. That's not changing in the COVID thing. So they have an anchor. Secondly, they are able to pray from a place of faith and not fear or even criticism, but from a place of God said that He would give us good shepherds. He shows here what bad shepherds do, so we can pray from that, and that's been that's brought the people more into a sight by faith of the Lord, which I think is so necessary, that everything we see, we need to see through the Word and from the Lord. So, the Lord hasn't changed, and and he's not in isolation or lockdown, and he knew this was coming, and I believe God is sovereign. So I would even say, I mean, we didn't ask about this, but I'll just say that I think that there's blessing in the shaking that God has allowed in the world for us. Never mind what it says to the nations and to the world, but to us. And part of it has been get back to the Word, get back to the promises. Yeah, we can see all that's wrong with our nation, and I can tell you from now till what I see, but that's not what the important thing is. The important is, can I stand for my nation in a time of need on the Word, in faith, and face reality without losing faith or hope in what God has done and said? And this is what we're trying to. So it's a maturing process, and we've been teaching that as well. So on the one hand, seeking God, walking with Him, seeking His face, praying, trusting Him to supply, and He has, and praying and standing there and being there for the nation in more than just criticism, because that doesn't change anything.
You've been listening to Ofer Amitai, a Jewish pastor in Jerusalem, describing how life in his congregation has adapted to the COVID restrictions. And Ofer will be back next week to talk about the significance of the recent warming of relationships between Israel and some of her neighbouring Arab countries. The Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund is a Christian charity based in the UK that supports the needs of both Jewish believers and Arab or Palestinian Christians living in Israel and the wider Middle East. If you'd like to know more about our work and receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please visit our website, olivetreefund.org. Meanwhile, join me at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.